Hello and welcome to Joy of Awareness. My name is Tolly Bryn. Today I want to talk about living the fasting-focused lifestyle. Since the summer of 2019, I've been living this kind of lifestyle. I've been fasting way more than I thought I ever would. I've been living mostly on the OMAD, eating one meal a day, and in between been taking longer fasts, usually just 2 or 3 days. I haven't taken a longer fast than that for a couple of years now, and it may actually be coming time to do another long fast. I've done a few 2 or 3 day dry fasts as well, which have been very interesting, but I'm kind of cutting back on those now because they're pretty intense, but they can be useful, especially if you're dealing with some health issues like I was. The biggest doubts that I had about living a fasting-focused life, I would say the biggest doubt was probably being afraid of hunger. I was afraid that, if I started fasting regularly and if I was eating only one meal a day, that, I wouldn't eat enough and I'd start getting hungry all the time and just get really skinny and end up disappearing. But that hasn't happened. And there are various reasons for that, because it really can be a problem. Like, you can get really hungry and it can be very difficult to stick to it. But I figured out that what I eat is hugely important to hunger pangs and just feeling hunger in general. Generally, if I eat a diet that's heavy on fats, especially animal fats, you could kind of compare it to a keto/paleo diet. Like, I'm not eating a lot of starchy vegetables or fruit or anything like that, although I'm not really denying myself that either. It's just that I make the staple of my diet fats and proteins, and when I do that, it's as if my insulin doesn't spike as much and I don't get the crash that follows usually. And following an insulin crash, as you may know, you'll start to experience a lot more hunger than if you're burning more ketones, you might say. Ketones are a way more stable energy source than glucose, and when you're going through your day burning ketones, you'll be less likely to experience a crash like that and start feeling really hungry. Especially simple carbs, though. Starches like potatoes, I haven't really felt that much of a problem with, but especially like simple carbs, like if you start eating pasta and pizza and bread and from white flour, I mean, polished rice, for instance, things like that, and really sweet fruit as well, like mangoes and stuff like that. You can start. It gets more difficult to keep up a regular fasting routine. Doesn't mean that these are bad foods at all. Well, I would say that polished rice and processed flour are definitely not foods that you should be eating really at all. There's no reason to eat them. Anyways, as soon as you get used to eating the whole wheat variety of bread and brown rice, you won't want to go back because it just tastes way better. The only reason that people like white bread and white rice is because the simple carbs are addictive. It's the same as with sugar. If you've ever done a sugar fast, which you probably should try, you'll figure out that the longer you go without sugar, the less appealing it is. And I actually had this weird thing just a few days ago because I was coming out of a long fast. I did a 46-day fast for Lent, where I skipped a few things like sugar and coffee and chocolate and actually my smartphone as well. On the day that I broke the fast, I ate a chocolate Easter egg with some sweets in it, and I was just like, oh man, this is way too sweet. It was actually a nice feeling, but then, very soon after, I started feeling craving for more, even though I didn't like it. It's just, your body gets physically addicted to these substances. White flour, sugar, even white rice, these are drugs almost. They're very addictive. So just be careful of that. Another thing that I was afraid of when I was starting to live this this fasting focused lifestyle is I was afraid I wouldn't have any energy. I wouldn't be able to actually train and exercise the way I wanted to. But surprisingly, like, I have so much more energy. It's almost weird. Like, you would think that, you need to, kind of like if your body was a car, you'd need to be constantly giving it more fuel to drive it forward. But the body is just so much more intricate and perfect than any machine that we've invented. So there are so many processes in the body, like fat storage, for instance, that are just so much more intricate than you may think. And when you don't eat for some time, the body starts burning ketones from fatty tissue instead of glucose. And it just so happens that this is a way more stable source of energy. So I found that when I'm going out running, I don't run that far. I'm not a long distance runner by any means, but I run maybe, 10 to 12 kilometers when I go out running. Absolutely no problem. Like, I just keep going, and I hardly get tired at all. I could keep going, but honestly, I just find long distance running to be incredibly boring, so I don't do it. I'm more into strength training, and funnily enough, strength training is also way, way more easy, I should say, than when I'm not fasting. Also kind of counterintuitive, but there you go. I have more explosive energy. I'm just more energetic in general. It's pretty amazing, actually. I would recommend you try it. I don't know where I got that idea, actually, now that I think about it. I remember when I was growing up and just starting to exercise in any meaningful way, I never went out to exercise unless I had already eaten. And I would always have like a energy bar or one of those shakes, or anything like that. And you just needed this quick energy and stuff. And then you'd eat a banana after the workout and stuff. But now I'm like, no, I'll go out running after a 24-hour fast without eating. And I won't eat anything after that even, you just don't need to keep constantly eating. And that's such a liberating realization. Takes me to the next point that I want to make, which is that fasting is a sort of way to force ketosis. So if you're familiar with the keto diet, which is all the rage these days, they kind of promise sort of stable, continued ketosis after, at best, a few weeks of following the diet. I think it's generally, I can't remember. I haven't really checked this for a while, but I think they say upwards of 6 months of following the keto diet consistently, you'll start to be, your body will adapt to burning ketones instead of glucose in general. And until then, you'll probably feel really lethargic and tired. And that was actually definitely my experience when I did keto. Although it wasn't all bad. Like, I felt at times more clarity, more energy, but after a few weeks of that, I was just like, wow, I need some carbs. I need some quick energy, I've kind of come to the conclusion that a really healthy diet consists of fluctuating between ketosis and burning glucose. Just seems a way more efficient and just fun way to live, kind of. Like, you don't really want to live without fruit and berries and potatoes and starches for your whole life. I mean, I certainly don't. When I was starting out, I just loved food, I just love eating. And I now see that I had a lot of food addictions, especially, obviously, the main one was sugar and simple carbs. Coffee was in there as well, definitely. But I also just had a addiction to comfort eating. Even though I wasn't like obese or anything like that, I didn't consider myself to be unhealthy dietarily, but I definitely was. I used food as a way to cope with boredom, with sadness, with hopelessness, and it worked very well, very well. I mean, it is incredibly pleasurable to eat, and to eat good food especially. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with eating, obviously, but there is something wrong with using food as a sort of, I don't know, drug or reward, or just kind of using it in such an unhealthy way where you're not actually eating because you need sustenance. You're eating because you feel bad. Like, that's not the way to go. And fasting has really helped me to just see this, because not only does fasting just make me feel so much better about myself and about my life, and it just clears your head and makes you see all of your problems in a different way, in a sort of psychedelic way. And by that I mean like a mind-expanding way. The proper use of the term psychedelic would be mind expansion, mind clearing. And that is exactly what fasting does for you. Greater mental clarity throughout the day is definitely another aspect to following this diet. I'm now, I'm working as a carpenter. I don't eat until 12 o'clock, and then I don't eat again until noon the next day. So I'm eating one meal a day. I'm so clear, and I have so much energy before lunch and after lunch. The only thing that I don't like about this is that I'm often kind of bloated after lunch, because I have to eat a lot to get the calories that I need. But I think my stomach's expanded since I started doing this. Like, I can eat more in one sitting without getting bloated, so that's fine too. I wouldn't even worry about it too much. Finally, the diet between the fasts is obviously hugely important. You can't just be eating pizza and pasta and sweets and all this stuff and then fasting in between and just expect everything to be okay. Like, trust me, I've tried it. I really did. Like, after the great summer of fasting 2019 for me, where I healed all of my gut issues and all of my autoimmune issues in the course of one summer. At first I was eating really healthy and really clean for like half a year after that. But then later on I was like, I was working, and I was in taking night classes as well. So I was under a lot of pressure, and I was like, I'll have a pizza here and there, and just some convenience food, And that started to become a real habit for me, and it really had a negative impact. I didn't start getting my autoimmune issues back. Surprisingly, my skin didn't get worse or anything like that, but I did look worse. Like, I was more pallid, I guess, and my skin just didn't look nice, even though it wasn't like blotchy or red or anything like it was. But I especially found it like in my head, started getting depressed, really depressed and really anxious. And I didn't at first connect it to the diet, because I was so used to really fasting so much that, sorry, I should start again. I felt like fasting was the cure-all. Like, fasting was the only thing that mattered. So it didn't really matter what I would eat in between. But I figured out that is not true. You can get away with eating unhealthy stuff every now and then and still feel great. Limit it as much as you can, obviously, but it's okay, like, every now and then to have a pizza or have a candy bar or whatever you want. But if you make it a habit, fasting won't save you. Like, obviously, it will be better to whatever you're eating. The more you fast around that, the better, basically, and the better you'll probably feel. But at the same time, like, I'm not even sure. I don't know what'll happen if you just eat only processed sugar and then fast, and then processed sugar and then fast, and that'll be the staple of your diet. Like, I think you won't have a fun time. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some value out of it. I'm having a lot of fun making these videos. If you have any questions, if you want me to talk about a specific issue from my experience, and mind you, I only speak from my own experience. I've done a lot of research as well, but I'm more experience oriented than anything else, more empirical, and especially, like, if you have experiences around fasting, around curing any kind of disease, or around getting your weight stable, whatever it is. Like, if fasting has helped you, if a simple diet has helped you, I'd love to hear from you. Like, you can send me a message privately, or you can just comment down below. Like and subscribe, of course, and Thanks for listening to me talk for this long. Have a nice day.